You knew, before they showed you anything, before they gave you a single reason, before one piece of evidence existed that any reasonable person would call proof, you knew. And you ignored it. Because you didn't want to be the person who judges someone before giving them a fair chance. Because someone told you you were being paranoid. Because the logical part of your mind lined up all the surface information and said, there's nothing wrong here, so you waited. 6 months later, a year later, maybe longer, everything you felt in the first 5 minutes turned out to be true. Every single thing. And you stood there with the confirmation you never wanted, thinking the same thought you always think. I knew from the beginning. Why didn't I listen? This has happened to you more than once. More than twice. So many times that it stopped feeling like coincidence. A long time ago, but you still don't fully trust it. Because nobody ever explained what it actually is. Tonight, that changes. And by the end of this, you will never doubt it again. Most people think this is intuition. And they say it like it's something small, something soft, something that might be real, or might just be anxiety dressed up as wisdom. It is not that. What you have is a data processing system that runs faster and captures more information than your conscious mind is even aware of. It is not a feeling. It is a conclusion that was reached by a part of your brain that does not speak in words and cannot show its work, but is almost always more accurate than the part that can. The reason you doubt it is not because it's unreliable. It's because the world keeps asking you for evidence, for something that operates below the level where evidence lives. Tonight, 4 things you have never been told about what's actually happening when you just know. When you meet someone, you are receiving information on frequencies that most people's minds are not tuned to. Here is what is actually happening. The human face produces over 10,000 distinct expressions. Most of them last between 1/5 and 1/25 of a second. These are called micro-expressions, and they are involuntary. They happen before the conscious mind can manage them, before the social performance begins, before the person has decided what version of themselves they are going to show you. In that fraction of a second, the face tells the truth, and then the mask goes on. Most people's conscious minds cannot process what happened in that fraction of a second. The moment passes. The information is lost, but your brain caught it. Not consciously, you didn't see it. But the processing system that runs underneath your awareness registered it, compared it to everything it knows about faces and truth and people, and sent you a signal, not a thought. Not a reason, a feeling, a sourceless, inexplicable certainty that something about this person exists behind what they're showing. That feeling is the report from a system that has been running a more sophisticated analysis than anything your conscious reasoning is capable of. Since the moment you walked in the room, the knowing isn't a guess. It is a conclusion from a processing system so fast you experience it as instinct instead of thought. Here is the question that nobody asks. Why do some people have this and others don't? Because it is not random. The ability to read people at a level that bypasses conscious processing is not a gift distributed arbitrarily to lucky people. It is a capability that develops in response to a specific kind of environment. If you grew up somewhere where the emotional atmosphere was unpredictable, where someone important to you could shift without warning, without reason you could identify, and the shift mattered because it had consequences, then your brain had a problem to solve. It could not predict the environment, and an unpredictable environment to a child's nervous system is not uncomfortable, it is dangerous. So the brain adapted, began tracking signals that most nervous systems don't bother with. The micro-shift in someone's posture before the mood changes. The specific quality of a silence that means something is different. From the silence that means everything is fine. The tone underneath the words that contradicts what the words are claiming. Your brain built a system for reading the truth beneath the performance because in your specific environment, reading that truth accurately was not a social advantage, it was how you stayed safe. And that system didn't stop working. When the environment changed, it came with you into every room, every relationship, every new person who has no idea that they've already been read more accurately in the first 5 minutes than most people manage in 5 months. You didn't develop this because you're special. You developed it because you had to. And that distinction matters more than most people who have this ever allow themselves to understand. There's something beyond the reading, something that is harder to explain and closer to what people actually experience when they describe just knowing. You walk into a room and you feel that something happened. Before anyone tells you, you're talking to someone and you feel the specific weight of what they're not saying, more than what they are. You meet someone who appears completely fine, and you feel with a certainty you cannot justify that they are not fine at all. This is not imagination. Your brain contains a system that neuroscientists have been studying since the mid-1990s, mirror neurons. Cells that activate, not only when you experience something, but when you observe someone else experiencing it. Your brain, in a literal neurological sense, mirrors the internal state of the people around you. For most people, this operates quietly, a background process. The basic social resonance that allows humans to understand each other at a surface level. For people like you, the mirror system is significantly more active. You don't observe that someone is performing happiness. You feel the effort of the performance. You don't notice that someone is hiding something. You feel the weight of the hiding, as if you were carrying it yourself. This is why certain people exhaust you in ways you can't explain to anyone else. Why certain interactions leave you carrying emotions that didn't belong to you when you walked in. Why you sometimes know exactly how someone feels before they've decided whether to tell you. You are not reading the surface, you are receiving the interior. The truth of a person leaks through the gaps between what they say and what they are. And you were built to receive exactly that signal. Now here is the part that has been doing the most damage. You don't trust it. Not because it's been wrong. Think about that. Actually think about it. How many times has the thing you felt in the first 5 minutes turned out to be wrong? Compare that to how many times you overrode it, gave the benefit of the doubt, waited for evidence, and watched everything you felt initially turn out to be exactly right. The accuracy rate of the knowing is not the problem. The problem is that the world has a specific relationship with knowledge that cannot be explained. You can't know that without proof. That's not fair to them. You're being paranoid. You can't judge someone on a feeling. These aren't wrong exactly. They're built for a world where most people's instincts are actually projections, where most gut feelings are fear in disguise, where most first impressions are built on bias, not data. But yours are not most people's. Your instincts are built on a processing system that captures information at a resolution most people's nervous systems are simply not running. And yet, you applied the same skepticism to a fundamentally different capability. You kept choosing the slower, less accurate process that could produce an explanation over the faster, more accurate one that couldn't. Because explanation felt like knowledge, and knowing without explanation felt like irrationality. But here is the truth. Irrationality is not the absence of explanation. Irrationality is ignoring accurate information because it arrived in a form you didn't expect. You have been doing the irrational thing every time you overrode it, and you have been paying for exactly that every single time. You knew, you have always known, long before the evidence arrived, long before anyone else saw it, long before the situation produced the confirmation you never wanted. You already had the information. It came to you the only way it knows how. Not as logic, not as argument, not as anything you could hand to someone else and say, here, this is why I know. It came as a feeling, quiet, certain, sourceless, in the way that only the most reliable things are sourceless because they come from somewhere too deep to have a name. You are not paranoid. You are not judgmental. You are not projecting fear onto people who don't deserve it. You are someone whose mind was shaped by real experience into something that most people will spend their entire lives trying to develop and never quite reach. The only thing that was ever wrong was not the knowing, it was the years spent talking yourself out of it in favor of a process that was always less accurate than what you felt in the very first moment. Trust it, you have earned that the hard way. The hard way.